Indie animation is changing everything. Right? Well, not really. If you've been living under a rock, you might have missed the recent surge in indie animation, with creators and media alike all rushing to call it the next big era of animation. Yes, they've gotten hundreds of millions of views and crowdfunded millions of dollars over the last few years, but let's slow down a second. We're in the midst of something seriously special. Shows like Lackadaisy, The Amazing Digital Circus, and Hell of a Boss are doing things no major studio would dare to attempt. But this isn't a takeover, it's more a rebellion. And like all rebellions, it's messy, inconsistent, underfunded, and fueled by pure passion. So today, let's talk about why indie animation is revolutionary, but also fragile. To understand what makes indie animation so different and so important, we need to look at where mainstream animation is right now. And the truth is, it's in a very big identity crisis. The big studios like Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, Illumination aren't struggling financially per se, but creatively, originality has taken a complete backseat to sequels, nostalgia bait, and safe bets. Disney is facing backlash for movies that feel more like brand maintenance than actual storytelling. Pixar is not the golden child anymore, and DreamWorks, while brilliant one minute, ends up putting out a Shrek 5 teaser the next. Let's not even mention Illumination, and Sony really only has the Spider-Verse to stand on. What's missing isn't technical skill or visual polish, it's creative risk, it's storytelling originality, a sense that someone actually wanted and cared to tell this story, not that it emerged from some quarterly content strategy meeting. In the meantime, something's been brewing on YouTube and in small Discord servers, crowdfunding pages. While studios were playing it safe, indie creators have been experimenting, pushing boundary, building weird, deeply personal worlds. They don't have massive budgets or marketing departments, but what they do have is creative freedom and, more importantly, more attention than you can imagine. In just the past few years, indie animation has racked up insane numbers. The Amazing Digital Circus exploded out of nowhere, racking up over 300 million views on its pilot episode alone. Has Been Hotel's original pilot since comfortably over 100 million views. Lackadaisy crowdfunded $330,000, released a single animated short, and instantly became one of the highest rated animated shorts on YouTube. Even smaller projects like Murder Drones, Cliffside, or Ramshackle have developed million-strong followings with fan bases that rival established IP. These aren't outliers anymore. They're indicators of where attention is shifting. And it's not just views, it's merch, it's Patreon dollars, it's fan art, dedicated communities forming around projects that just a few years ago would have seemed completely impossible to make outside of a studio system. That level of traction used to only happen with studio backing. Now it's happening with creator-led teams working out of their own homes and using open source tools. And audiences are showing up like it's the next Frozen. So when we talk about indie animation, we're talking about a creative surge with enough visibility, engagement, and momentum to make even the biggest studios start to take notice, which was evident when A24 picked up Has Been Hotel after the pilot's success on YouTube. The show has ended up airing on Amazon Prime and has gotten great reviews since. That's where we are now, stuck between shrinking creative appetite in mainstream animation and an explosion of risk-taking energy coming from the outside. And it's because indie animation is winning in ways the big studios simply aren't anymore. For one, they have creative freedom. Indie shows don't have shareholders breathing down their necks. There are no corporate notes asking to remove that scene because it's too weird, or simplify a character arc so it plays better for 5-year-olds. Instead, indie creators are telling personal, specific, and often incredibly risky stories. The kind that feel alive because they haven't been sanded down by a committee of 50-year-old executives. Has Been Hotel, for example, doesn't shy away from themes of sin, identity, and redemption, all wrapped in a musical format with hell as the backdrop. There isn't a single major studio that would approve putting that out themselves. The amazing digital circus mixes existential horror, bright colors, and childlike surrealism, which is a crazy combination and seems like a fever dream when you're watching it. But that's what makes it fun and interesting. It's unlike anything else. Now compare that to Wish, which went through several story revisions and not necessarily for the better. Early versions featured a much more dramatic ending, with Magnifico becoming all-powerful by absorbing multiple wishes, a transformation that's reminiscent of Jafar's own transformation at the end of Aladdin. That version of Magnifico was so much more menacing and memorable, and there were even drafts where the star wasn't just a silent mascot, but an actual character with personality, which would have added depth, tension, and emotional nuance to Asha's relationship with him. Instead, the film felt like the safest, most boring version they could have put out. There's also a feeling of rawness around the edges to indie animation that just makes it so much more captivating than a big studio picture. The authenticity and effort of the voice acting, the roughness of the animation, it's awesome. You can tell real people made this. That lack of polish isn't a flaw, it's actually part of the charm. It gives the work texture, personality, and honestly, in a social media world, overflowing with overproduced, algorithm-chiseled, AI-enhanced content, that roughness feels ridiculously refreshing, if you ask me. Then there's the connection with audiences. Indie creators aren't just names on a screen. They're online, live streaming, answering questions, posting updates. VivziePop built her fan base over years of direct interaction, and got the Has Been Hotel entirely funded by her followers on Patreon. The Lackadaisy team shares behind-the-scenes breakdowns and credits its fans directly in their work. These communities aren't passive, they're passionate. They donate, they promote, they care, they're helping these projects exist, and that creates a level of loyalty that studios can't buy. Just look at Strange World or Wish again. These films had massive budgets and global marketing campaigns, but most people that I know didn't even know they were coming out. I don't know a single soul that was counting down the days to when Wish came out. And weirdly enough, the lack of resources often becomes a creative advantage. With lower budgets and smaller teams, indie projects are forced to be inventive. Instead of chasing realism or spectacle, they lean into stylization and storytelling ingenuity. When you can't show off studio-level animation, you focus on the things you can show off: story, character development, and unique aesthetics. Lackadaisy doesn't have picture-level polish, but its distinct character animation, lighting, and period detail make it unforgettable. TADC's design is wild, chaotic, offbeat, and that's why it sticks with people. And honestly, they look more interesting than everything the $175 million budget did for Wish or Inside Out 2. That's 6,000 times the budget of Lackadaisy, by the way, and somehow Lackadaisy still had better lighting. I don't know, man. But none of this revolution would be possible without massive leaps in affordable technology. Just a decade or two ago, high-quality animation outside a studio was almost unthinkable. You needed expensive software, rendering farms, and full departments of people. Now, with tools like Blender, Krita, Toon Boom, and Storyboard Pro, creators can animate, render, and edit everything from a single laptop. Today, anyone with time, skill, and a decent computer can make something incredible. Flow's the perfect example. The movie that just won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, while being made entirely on Blender, has no dialogue, and is about a cat and his animal friends on a boat. Gins Zilbalodis beat the world's most powerful animation studios using free software from his couch. The message could not be clearer. You can do it yourself. The playing field has almost entirely been leveled. And finally, indie animation hits so hard because it plays into being niche. It's not trying to please everyone. It's speaking directly to certain audiences. LGBTQ+ fans, horror fans, vintage cartoon lovers, fans of internet surrealism. These shows are highly specific, and that specificity makes them resonate more deeply. In an age where mainstream animation tries to appeal to everyone and ends up saying absolutely nothing, indie animation speaks clearly even if it's not for everyone. So when I say indie animation is winning, I'm not just talking about views. I'm talking about creativity, ingenuity, audience trust, loyalty, cultural relevance. But And this is a big but. Even with all of this momentum and everyone saying this is the future of animation, that's just not the case yet, and honestly, it might never be. This video is once again sponsored by the coolest snack brands, Tokyo Treat and Sakureko, 2 monthly snack box subscriptions that bring the taste of Japan right to your doorstep and make perfect gifts. First up is Tokyo Treat, which is all about modern, fun, and seasonal Japanese snacks. This month's box is themed Japan Snackfari, and it's packed with everything from grape paw gummies to mayo curry chips. And yes, also these awesome salted caramel Kit Kats. They never miss. They never miss. This is probably my favorite flavor so far. If you're into sweet, salty, or just the wildly unexpected, Tokyo Treat has something for you. Then there's Sakureko, which focuses more on traditional, artisan Japanese snacks. This month's theme is savoring Osaka, inspired by Osaka's heritage through flavors that bring its traditions to life. It comes with delicate treats like strawberry cream cookies and strawberry cakes, plus a beautifully fragrant sencha tea that is insane. And of course, every Sakureko box comes with an exclusive household item. This month, it's a cotton tenugui. Both boxes also include a beautifully designed cultural booklet filled with stories behind the snacks, tea pairing tips, and all allergen info. Hit the link in the description, use my code for a discount, and treat yourself or someone else to a night under the cherry blossoms. Most indie animation projects rely entirely on crowdfunding, merch sales, or ad revenue. There's no studio safety net, no guaranteed funding for a second season. Even the most popular indie shows operate with razor-thin margins and grueling schedules. Memoir of a Snail, which was nominated for Best Animated Feature this year, is a perfect example of this struggle. Director Adam Elliott admitted that the thing he wishes he could do with a bigger studio budget isn't to improve animation or scale, it's simply to pay his editor and his animators the money they deserve. He added that he'd love to make a film where he still has creative control and freedom, but everyone gets paid properly. It's a powerful reminder that even the best indie films are often under intense financial strain, and that recognition doesn't always come with real support. Lackadaisy has millions of views, but only 1 episode, because that 1 episode took like 3 years to make. This 27-minute animated short, based on Tracy Butler's webcomic, was crowdfunded through a Kickstarter campaign that raised over $330,000. They then went on to raise more than $2 million for an entire first season of the show, but that was raised in 2023, and we still haven't gotten an episode yet. So $2.3 million and 5 years later, and there's only been 1 short to really show for it. That's how tough this is. The immense effort required for just 1 episode underscores the challenges indie creators face in sustaining long-term projects. Bee and Puppycat tells a similar story. Creator Natasha Allegri launched one of the most successful animated Kickstarter campaigns at the time after being turned down by studios, highlighting how even brilliant original ideas often can't find footing in traditional pipelines. Burnout is another significant concern. Small teams often juggle multiple roles, animating, writing, editing, marketing, leading to extended production timelines and increased stress. If something goes wrong, there's no fallback budget. A show can disappear as quickly as it appeared, regardless of its quality or fan base. Monkey Wrench, for example, launched with major hype, but hit a wall when creator Zerrell publicly shared how unsustainable the production pace had become. And that's not rare. It's the reality of many indie teams trying to keep their passion alive without burning out completely. And then there's the issue of reach. Most indie animation lives in fandom bubbles online. While platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit provide avenues for distribution and fan engagement, these projects rarely break into mainstream consciousness. A lot of people still have no idea they exist. Global visibility is still something only the big studios can guarantee. Even when it comes to industry recognition, indie animation still struggles to break through. Sure, there are moments of validation, like Flow winning an Oscar, for example, but the larger infrastructure to support and sustain indie projects just isn't there. Occasionally, an incredible movie makes a statement at these awards. Flea, for example, in 2021, a groundbreaking animated documentary from a Danish indie studio, pulled off an unprecedented 3 Oscar nominations: Best Animated Feature, Best Documentary, and Best International Feature Film, which is beyond impressive, and prove that indie animation can be both artistically daring and globally recognized. But those cases are rare. The industry's still built around major studios, and no matter how viral or beloved an indie project becomes, most creators remain on the outside looking in. That's also why 2025 was such a landmark year. Memoir of a Snail, another indie standout, was nominated for Best Animated Feature alongside Flow. In the 25-year history of the category, this is the first time 2 indie animated films have been nominated in the same year. Maybe this double nomination, combined with Flow's win, will mark a shift in what gets considered and nominated for these big boy award shows, and more importantly, what ends up getting seen by the general public. But unfortunately, some glaring omissions still remind us how far there is to go. Lackadaisy, despite having more buzz and reach than most of the nominees, wasn't even considered for Best Animated Short at the Oscars in 2023, and none of the shows I've mentioned, The Amazing Digital Circus, Monkey Wrench, Cliffside, Murder Drones, etc., have been nominated for an Emmy. Not a single one, which just makes zero sense and highlights how blind these award shows still are to where the real innovation in animation is happening. So no, indie animation probably isn't going to conquer the industry anytime soon, but maybe that's not the point. Because what it's proving over and over again is that audiences don't actually care about polish as much as they care about creativity and ingenuity. They want stories that feel fresh, strange, risky, and right now, indie animation is one of the only places consistently delivering them. This is legitimately a movement that's already inspiring a new generation of animators, building real fan communities, and challenging the very idea of what animation has to be. It's a wake-up call for big studios. Keep lagging behind and you'll end up finding yourself at the bottom of the attention funnel. And whether the industry listens or not, this isn't going away. It's only gonna get much, much, much louder.